Okay, we're going through our 6 attributes, our 6 settings, our 6 approaches. And we've done 3. We have done intensity, which is how bright the light is and how bright the light looks. And we talk about intensity being controlled by amount of electrical power, it's controlled by distance, it's controlled by modifiers like we'll see in a few minutes. You can put, if we have one, there are scrims like pieces of mesh wire you can put in front of these lights to kind of cut down the amount of light. It's controlled on some light units, like the ones we're going to be playing with today, by an actual dimmer. You can put a dimmer on those lights too, but it changes the color. We talked about quality, which is all about how sharp or how soft the edges of any shadows that the key light is creating are. It's not about how dark, it's not about how light, it's only about how soft the edges of the shadows are. If you missed last week, I've got a video that's about ready to be put up on YouTube that is basically the entire lecture from last week. So if you missed last week's lab, you'll be able to go back and look at that. Contrast is our third one, being the distinction, the difference between the light side of a subject and the shadow side, what we refer to as the key and the fill side. Most of you know about three-point lighting. We're going to be using these terms over and over again. Three-point lighting is a key light that is the light on which you're going to base your exposure. It's your primary light. A fill light that is going to help you decide how bright or how dark the shadows should be by casting light into the shadows, and a backlight that's going to be on the opposite side of your subject. We talked about the fact that you don't always use all these lights, but it's nice to think about it in this terms because it forces you to think about 3 things that are very important. The key light forces you to think about your source of light in your center. It forces you to think about what we're going to talk about first, which is direction and angle. It forces you to think about whether the light that's being shown on your subject needs to be motivated. In other words, it seems to be like it's coming from a lamp. It seems to be like it's coming from a skylight. It seems to be like it's coming from a window, or whether it can just kind of be abstractly a light source. The fill light forces you to think about contrast. It forces you to think about how bright or how dark are the shadows going to be, and how will that make me feel differently, which is what we did last week. The backlight forces you to think about depth. Because the function of the backlight, and we'll eventually next week we'll be using a backlight, the function of the backlight is to create a sort of halo or a line around your subject that separates it from the background. Right? So those are 3 important things to think about, whether you're using those 3 lights or not. Okay. One second, let me, where is it? Where is it in this one? Here we go. Okay, that brings us to direction and angle. What direction and angle is which direction in relationship to the subject is the key light. Thank goodness we haven't actually started. There we go. Which direction is the key light coming from in relationship to the subject? We have a set established series of positions for the key light that are mainly designed, mainly defined for portrait work, right? We don't do portraits. We tend to do things that move, which means as a subject moves, the way the light hits the subject, thank you, is also going to move. But I want to show you these specific positions, define them for you. If you go into the PowerPoint, you will find that these are listed there for you if you need them. I will be making a big circle around here. My guess is I'm going to be rolling right over the 3 of you, but you can move when I get there. Okay? All right. To do this, we're going to use one of these. Now, this is an LED light, light emitting diode. This is what all LED lights used to look like. If you look at it, you can see here all the different light emitting diodes. Right? Now, by its very nature, this is a somewhat soft light because our light source is, I don't know, what is that, like 10 by 8? Something like that? 8 by 10. Yeah, it's like a picture, like a photograph. I'm just going to use this to demonstrate this idea of direction and angle. We're going to let the shadows go dark because it'll make it easier to see what we're doing. And I'm going to strike this. All right, let me take it up. We're going to go relatively high with this light because most portrait settings do involve lights coming from above. One of the reasons for that is in nature, lights usually come from above. We're sitting in this room, lights up there, we go outside, sun's up there, right? In fact, lights coming from below tend to feel a little unnatural, right? That's why when we go to the campfire at Halloween, we put the flashlight under our face because it casts all these weird shadows and makes us look kind of sinister. Okay.
Do you want me to say that?
Yes, let's save the house lights on. All right, let me get the exposure right. So just about there. Okay. Try not to.
My bad.
That's okay. This is why I say never give an interview subject a swivel chair.
I got ADD.
Yeah, I know. It's hard. It's really hard.
My bad.
Okay. All right. Every face is going to do this slightly differently. Do me a favor just to demonstrate something. Bring your chin down a little bit. A little more. Okay. See, we have a shadow under the nose that's going straight down. Right? If your nose stuck out more, it'd be a longer shadow. If it was flatter, it'd be less of a shadow. Right? This is referred to as paramount lighting. It's sometimes referred to as butterfly lighting because sometimes the shadow will kind of take on the shape of a butterfly. You want to try to make it, and in fact, this would probably look a little better if I took it up just a little bit more. I don't have a lot of room left, but. And it doesn't want to go up. There we go. Let's try it like that.
Starting to lean.
Yeah, I'm not going to leave it there for long. I'm going to bring it back down as we start to move it around. It's also called glamour lighting because this is kind of the lighting they often use when they would do glamour shots. This is a kind of lighting that we associate with old school movie studios, Paramount being one of those studios, the kind of light that you use to kind of glamorize a subject. We basically are wiping out most of the shadows. We have the shadow under the nose, we have the shadow under the chin, but other than that, we're kind of just blasting light right into the face and illuminating the whole face. Okay, all right, let me, everything else we can do from here. All right, so we're going to go around in a circle. When I get to about here, ooh, why is that doing that? Hold on. Oh, what? What the heck happened? By the way, this is a light that does not get hot. It gets bright, but it does not get hot. Okay. All right. Just a little bit further. As we come around to the side, we get into something that's referred to as loop lighting. We've got a little bit of a shadow that's appearing on the edge of the face. You can see the shadow of the nose is now starting to go off a little bit to the side. So when we do this, we're emphasizing shadows a bit more. By emphasizing shadows a bit more, we emphasize a little bit of depth, right? Sometimes that first setting we looked at, the paramount setting, de-emphasizes depth, and sometimes that's seen as being very, what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of complimentary. Maybe, it's meant to make the subject look as good as possible. We're going to get a little more dramatic with a little more depth as we go around.
I feel more human. I don't know how to explain it.
There you go. There you go. Now, here's something else I want you to pay attention to. As most subjects in most situations, although not all, because we've seen some today, subjects, whether it's a dialogue scene, an interview scene, they're usually looking off to one side of the camera or another, right? So we've got him looking over here. Our key light is hitting this side of his face. We divide the face up into two parts. We talk about the broad side of the face and the short side of the face. We see more of this side of his face. We can even see his ear. This is the short side. We're starting off by putting the key light on the short side of the face. I'm doing this because when you start paying attention to this, you're going to notice that 3% of the time, the key light is coming from the shorter side of the face. It's a little counterintuitive. You would think, well, I'm seeing more of that side. Shouldn't I put the light over there? But actually, lighting is as much, if not more, about shadows than it is about the light. So by staying on this side, we're emphasizing the shadows, which is giving us more depth and, to some extent, maybe a little more personality in some way. All right, so we've got paramount, we've got loop. We keep going around, so we need to watch the shadow of his nose as it creeps across his face until it connects. Okay? Now the shadow's getting very, very dark. And depending on the different faces, depending on who's in the chair, sometimes I have to go further back, sometimes I have to go forward back. This, however, is Rembrandt lighting. We've got that triangle under the far side, on the fill side, the shadow side of the face. That's all that defines Rembrandt lighting. We can see as we go, we're creating more and more shadow and emphasizing more and more shadow. Now this feels kind of sinister because I don't have this filled in at all, but I can brighten these shadows up as much as I want to with another lighter with contrast, right? So don't let that fool you. This is what we're looking for right there, and we're looking for how different that feels and looks than Paramount did or than Loop did. All right, now. Okay, this is called split lighting. We've split the face right down the middle, half the face in shadow, half the face in our key light. So Paramount, Loop, Rembrandt, split. If we keep going around, can't go that far, hold on. Nope, okay. This is what's called rim lighting. We only have a very just like we had a sliver of shadow when we were Loop, we now have a sliver of light along one side of the face. Again, we can brighten or darken this shadow as much as we want to. That's not what we're looking at. We're just looking at these set of angles of the light. Somebody find me the smallest flag. Now, one thing that's happening now, and it's going to get worse in a minute, is that our light is actually going down the barrel of the lens, bouncing around and creating some kind of weirdness, right? Which is this. The way you correct that is by very carefully casting a shadow over the lens, right? So that the light's no longer hitting the lens, but it is still hitting our subject. See the difference? Right? And then, if you were doing something like this, you'd put this on a C-stand and you'd have it there permanently for the rest of the shot. Okay, if we keep going.
Where were you on the night of June 16th?
I didn't do it. Now you got the little muffled voice to keep the monotony.
All right. This is backlighting. The light is on the opposite side of the subject from the camera. You can see what I'm saying, how it creates kind of a line around the shoulders and the head that kind of separates the subject from the background. Right? Okay. That was all short-sighted. Now we're going to look at all this from the broad side. You can make your own determinations as you play around with this stuff, whether you think short or broad is better. Probably different from one circumstance to another. Okay, watch out there.
Sorry.
I don't hear too much about lighting, but it's pretty cool.
Good. All right, so I'm going to keep going around a little bit until we get to about here. And that's going to give me rim lighting on the broad side, right? So we've just got this sliver of light coming down on this side. And we're going to go backwards. We were in rim lighting, and then we went to split lighting. Here is split lighting. And I think my light's a little closer to you because it feels awfully hot. There we go. All right. So one half of the face is in shadow and the other half of the face is lit. Now this feels different from that side because now we're seeing more of the lit side of the face. Over here we were seeing more of the shadow side of the face. Again, there's no right or wrong here. That's just way more common. All right, let's keep going until we get to Rembrandt. So now we have that triangle over on this side, right? And again, we're emphasizing the broader side of the face with the light, then we are emphasizing the shadow side of the face. All right, we keep going around, and we're going to get to loop lighting. So once again, like we had kind of just a slice of light, now we've got just a slice of shadow on that side. And if we keep going around, we end up right back into Paramount. Now, again, nothing magic about these positions. They're a great shorthand, right? You're trying to communicate to someone else what you want. It's a great shorthand. But if I bring this around and get maybe just as perfect Rembrandt lighting as I can imagine. Right? Okay, look at me. Oh, it's not Rembrandt lighting anymore. Look at that. Oh, it's not Rembrandt lighting anymore. Right? Our subjects move. So it's not like there's some magic thing, oh, there's a triangle under his eye, we got to be sure that stays there, right? It's kind of a starting point. I will tell you how to drive yourself insane. And maybe that'll get you out of an assignment or something. I don't know. We'll give you a doctor's note for having gone crazy. Start looking for that triangle. You're watching YouTube, you're watching television, you're watching streaming, you're in a movie theater. Start looking for that triangle. It is everywhere. It will drive you insane. Okay. So that is direction. Does that make sense? Right, so you're making a decision. Now this decision may be where am I putting a light? This decision may be where am I putting my subject? Because maybe your key light's a window. Well, you move your subject around in relationship to the window, you get different kinds of light. The other thing about this is the softer the light is, Kai's got a glass again. The softer the light is, the less specific these settings are, right? Because we start softening the edges of the shadows. We start, the triangle begins to become a little less distinct and all that. None of that's wrong, none of that's right. It's just a matter of, as we go through this, what you have to recognize is none of these things live, none of these are an island. None of these live by themselves. It's the combination of decisions about intensity and quality and contrast and direction. Okay. All right. Who would like to set up for the last time, because I'm not bringing these things out again, who would like to set up one of these airy lights? Let's get the overheads on, Kai, if you don't mind. Saving.
I can.
Come on over. So let's start. Maybe somebody give you a hand. All right, let's start by getting a light stand. And about where you are is about where we're going to need it, maybe even just a little further back. If somebody wants to start this, I want to demonstrate this, but we need another light stand to be set up right over here. Yeah.
It's a silver tree.
Everything's still recording, that's nice. And unusual. So don't start putting that together yet, Kai, because I do want to show them how that gets put together. Okay, so that would be wrong. What's wrong with that?
There's no sandbag?
Nope. You want those legs spread apart as far as they can spread. If you loosen it enough, it will kind of find its own sort of center. There you go. Much, much better. And yes, you're right about a sandbag. We'll get a sandbag on that as soon as we get a light on it. So let's go with, is that the 650? It is. That's the one we want to go with. So
I totally knew that.
it's a case of nothing but 650s?
I think so.
What the hell is going on?
It's,
Okay, I'm sorry.
I can't find a single 300 in any of the
I'm
yards.
sorry. I'm sorry. Well, I see a scrim. I see a scrim.
Yeah,
I see a full scrim. Okay.
Is that good?
Yes, it is.
And also,
Place it all the way down. That's good. All right.
eat gloves.
Now, we need to get the barn doors on.
We got the fucking.
Some of you have noticed, right, we've got a spring-loaded clip up here that you have to move out of the way, and then you have to slide, well, there's a piece of tape on here that makes it almost impossible to do this.
I'll be darned. What do these kids do?
So you want to be going into these, for that rim there, so you want to slide in. All right, we're in these two, are we in that one on the other side?
Man, this movie is really good.
Okay, now you're good, now.
The direction is just so bad.
It's that little one.
There's no direction.
He left for food and never came back.
This is bent, that's one of the problems.
Sounds like my dad.
Slide it down.
Yeah, it's getting better.
Stays in on both of the sides. And now we need to move that cover. Guys, I'm not doing this just for Benny, I'm doing it for all of you. So, and I don't want to not be able to hear myself. Now, let's,
Oh, it's so cool.
that's good, that's good. Let's give this some power. by
See through
clicking.
my finger.
Now, what you want to do, our biggest concern
Cool.
is that this light not go that way. We don't want the light to hit the panel. The rest of us are completely expendable. Trust me, if you don't know anything else about production, once you get on a set, you will realize that very quickly. We want to put it on this side to make sure it doesn't fall that way. And we want to make sure, if we can, that it doesn't touch the ground, so we're using all of its weight.
I have a question.
Yes.
Another thing, should we keep one second, sorry Joseph. Should we keep it like this, so in case someone does push it and it doesn't have a bag?
No, because that makes it more likely to fall that way.
Oh.
You want a leg pointing at your subject, that it can almost, if it's this way and it's gonna fall, it's really never gonna fall that way. It's gonna fall this way, right? I can't even tilt it that way. Boy, could I tilt it this way.
That's true.
And I can tilt it that way. And I can tilt it back, but I cannot tilt it towards that leg, right? So that's the proper, good question, but that's the proper way.
I would think that would be fun.
Okay,
Striking in his after he moves his hands.
thank you.
Don't
All right,
look up,
striking.
man.
Gonna be bright.
Don't look up.
That's not it.
I knew that. I was testing. Try one more time. Start. Yeah. You got it.
Don't do that. He's switch in this case is on. Now, it's a good thing to ask this. Can we kill the overheads for a second? I'd like you to see this. What this back here does is this. So let's watch the light,
I feel the temperature.
right?
It's getting hot.
It either floods it, which makes it bigger and wider, or it spots it. Right? We're not going to do that. And I'll tell you what else we're going to do.
I sweat easily.
We've talked about. Do you mind getting the color on? Because we're going to do color. We have talked about the fact that I can't really dim this with a dimmer without changing the color on it. Okay? One of the things I can do, however, and I'm going to need the gloves. One of the things I can do, and these come in a variety of stops. In other words, they take out a variety of stops, and this says 6, but I know it's not 6 stops. I can, assuming everything fits properly, I didn't yesterday, go in here and insert that, which immediately cuts the light down. Well, let's see how much it cuts the light down. Where's my light meters in mine? Oh, this gets hot.
Can somebody get that beige, small, like Pelican case right there on the table?
This thing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, it got hot fast. Wow. Okay.
You okay?
That's gonna be hard to explain that one. Okay. Yeah, I put it on my arm. I really did not think even that would get hot that fast. It's for me. Oh, it's for me, Benny.
I know, I'm sorry.
Okay, if you'll recall from last time, this is a light meter. We'll probably have to, once you get that done, we'll have to change the settings on the camera too. I'm going to tell this little device what my shutter speed is and what my ISO is. Unfortunately, being a cheap piece of crap, it has very, very limited settings. So Kai is going to set the camera.
I'm fighting with the TV. I keep hitting the wrong button.
I figured it out. Always hit the second one from the top.
Yeah.
Then the top. Yeah. Now hit the second one from the top again.
Is it? Okay.
Yep. Now, okay, put that back. Now go to the top. There you are. There it is. Okay. All right. So, I've got this at 800. I've got this at essentially 1/60th. So we need to change the camera settings to match the light meter, which, by the way, not the way it's supposed to work. So we'll put that on 800. We'll leave that there. So there's a sensor right there, a light sensor, right? If I have the sensor uncovered, then I want to read the light that's reflecting off the subject. If I have the sensor covered, which is what we normally prefer, it gives us a better reading, I point it at the light source. So if I point this at the light source right now, it just changed all the settings. Why did you do that? I hate these things. Sorry. Okay.
This guy's playing rock, paper, scissors. Best.
Leave them away.
Okay, now we're back. I'm going to point this at the light, I'm going to push a little button, and it's going to tell me that in order to get a proper exposure here, I need to be at f4.5. Okay, and that looks pretty good. I'm happy. That looks like a very good exposure. All right, so let's see what happens.
It's not hot anymore.
Okay, thank you.
I promise.
Yeah. If I put in this screen. It's now an f3.2, which is half a stop. I believe that's right. Yeah, half a stop. Right. So we took out about a quarter of the amount of light that we had before. And Kai is adjusting. Okay. We're going to skip shape for a minute, and we're going straight to color, which is why the monitor is now in color. Okay? We talked about these kinds of lights as being incandescent lights. Lamps with vacuums or gases or both with filaments inside that you heat up with electricity and that brighten up, just like Edison intended. We talked about what in most of these lights that little metal filament is made out of. Does anybody remember? It's an element called tungsten. So we refer to these lights as tungsten lights. I'm going to move it over here to let it fall. I'm going to split his face. Actually, I might need to go right into there. Right. I want to do some split lighting right now. So I need to get to about there. Okay. Color temperature is a way. Can we get the overheads on just for a second so I can see this? What did I do with it? What did I do with it? I can see it. Different lights emit light in different colors. There are meters, by the way. You know, you can buy a meter that will tell you what color a light is. So we also can look at this in some broad strokes. If we've got something that's like a continuum, and as we go this way, light gets more and more orange. And as we go this way, light gets more and more blue. We would put a tungsten light somewhere around here, and we would designate it as having a color temperature in degrees Kelvin. It's going to be around 3,200 degrees Kelvin or 3,400 degrees Kelvin. If I were to start dimming this light, it would go lower and more orange and more orange and more orange. The fact that the light is old, in fact, probably means it's a little more orange than it probably was first intended to be. If we go to the other end and we think about daylight, sunlight, right? It's going to land somewhere around here. Nice bright sunny day around, midday. Changes as the sun comes up and comes down. The sun goes down. Around 6,000 K, it kind of averages out to around 5,600 degrees Kelvin. That means this is blue light, and that is orange light. Now, I'm looking on the monitor. Doesn't look orange to me. Skin tone looks pretty natural. Let's get the overheads off again, whoever's over there. Thank you. Skin tones look right. Now, I've got this set on auto white balance, which means the camera is making the decision on what color temperature it is setting itself to. And it just so happens it set itself to 3,200 Kelvin. And we know this is somewhere between 3,200 and 3,400 Kelvin. So now, what this is this. If I'm using an orange light, either the camera needs to figure out, or let's take a little more control of it, I need to tell the camera, just changed, didn't it? I need to tell the camera what kind of light I'm shooting under, because the camera has to make adjustments. So I want to go in here, and I want to tell it, we're at 3,400, let's go back to 32. We're at 3,200 degrees Kelvin. And that's going to make that light appear to be white. If I do this wrong, let's say I think that's sunlight and I think it's bluer, and I decide to set this to 5,600. The camera thinks it's looking at blue light. I've told it it's looking at blue light. So it's going to turn it more orange to compensate for the blue. What it's done is made it too orange because it's not really blue light, it's orange light. I have lied to the camera and I have gotten this result. Now, this can be creative, right? You can decide you want your image. You know, the most basic color theory is that orange light feels warmer. Literally in terms of temperature, a room that you light with orange light looks more like a warm room. It's more comforting. It's more inviting. Colder light, bluer light, feels cooler. The environment literally feels cooler, or it feels cooler emotionally, right? It's a little more of a threatening feeling of environment. I can decide to set this camera somewhere to make that orange light look even more orange. And if we go back down to where we were, which is the correct color temperature for this light, 3,200, okay? And the skin tones look just about right. I can start going up. And the more I go up, the more I'm saying this light is blue, it's bluer, it's even bluer, it's bluer than that, and it's turning itself more and more orange to compensate. So by the time we get to the top, which is 15,000 degrees Kelvin, we've turned this image pretty orange. Now obviously there's stuff like this you can do in post-production too, right? But let's go the other way. We won't be able to go very low below, but let's see what happens if we take it back to 3200, which is what it's supposed to be, and we'll look quote unquote normal. Which would be right there. Now if we keep telling the camera that the light is more, and by turning it down, by going below 3200, we're saying to the camera, the light's a lot more orange, more orange, more orange, more orange, more orange. It's going to do the same kind of compensation in the opposite way. It's going to start turning the light blue. Now I can only go down to 2000, but we can already tell how much that changed the characteristic and the quality of that light. So there's two ways to look at color temperature. One is corrective. One is being sure the camera knows what color light you're shooting. Now there's another way to look at this on a lot of cameras. If I go over into my settings and I go to something that looks like a light bulb, I'm going to be telling it I'm shooting under tungsten light, and it's going to look relatively normal. If I go to something that looks like a little sun symbol down there on the left, it's going to think it's blue light. It's going to turn it more orange. I think those are the only two we've got on here. Yeah. Let's get back to here. And let's put this back to normal. Now, so far, we've used two different kinds of lights out of our inventory. We have used tungsten incandescent light, and we have used what's referred to as a flat panel LED, which provides a bit of a softer light than that would provide. So let's get the overhead lights on again real quick. Let me show you a different kind of LED. Let me show you an LED that has been designed to compete with that light. And in fact, while we're doing it, why don't we save this light? I'm sure you would appreciate it. All right. What we have in this kit, these are, someone's really strong. Yeah, it should go down. There you go. Let me just hold on to it for a second. This is also an LED light, which means it uses a lot less electricity, like that one, and it does not get very hot. It gets a little hot, right? What's on the front of this light right now is a protective cap. Here's something you don't want to do. You don't want to turn this light on with the cap on. It doesn't get very hot, but boy, it'll get hot with that cap on there, and that cap will melt. And it will also damage the LED, and we're down another one of our most popular lights. So there's a little button on the top. There's always going to be something to do this that releases it, and we can take it off. You should never touch anything, frankly. Never touch anything that looks like it's doing anything.
I want to.
Yeah, you should not touch this. What you're seeing in the front here, that yellow, that is the LED. These are often referred to as a single source LED light, because much like this light has one lamp, this light has a very, very small source. What happens when you have a smaller source of light? Huh? What happens?
Focus.
Nope.
Focus.
Nope.
Spotlight.
Look at your list. Does it affect intensity? No. Does it does it affect quality? What the hell, guys? How much time did I spend going, the larger the light source, the softer the light, the smaller the light source, the harder the light? If you had $1 for every time I said that, you could buy a latte. All right? The fact that this is a smaller light source means it's going to be a harder light. It's going to create much more distinct edges to the shadows. Now, why is that an advantage? I will tell you, because I don't have time to wait for you to answer. You can take a hard light and you can make it soft. You can't take a soft light and make it harder. So this gives us a great deal of flexibility. It can be a hard light. We'll look next time at modifiers we can put on here and make it a soft light as well. Once again, this is called a 120D. Anybody know what the D stands for?
Diesel.
No. But at least you tried. What does D stand for, you think? Daylight.
You got that all in
Which means the color temperature of this light is
That's the right diesel.
what?
This is gonna be like
Jackson said this.
What'd you say, Jackson?
It's like bluish color.
Yes, but what's the number? Let's
56.
5600 degrees Kelvin, which does mean it will be blue. Just like the sun. This is going to give you the same kind of color temperature as the sun would give you. Now, hooking this up, let's slide that case all the way up here somebody's probably going to be out.
Also, you can see on this where somebody has left the cap on, and it has melted a hole
Yeah.
in the cap. Don't do that. Very expensive light.
Okay. These are our most popular lights because these are our most useful lights. These lights will run on batteries. Those lights will not. These lights will not set or your person on fire. That light will. This light will heat up your environment and make your interviewer sweat. This light will not. But if you look at it, you got to figure out how to give this thing some power. So I just want you to go through, here's a thought process, right? Number one, Google. Boom, you're done. Let's say some reason you don't have your phone, okay? But you got a kit here. So you look at the light and you go, okay, I know I've got to plug this into something. How do I, okay, I've got one connection on this light and one only, and it's a 5, see those little 5 holes? It's a 5-pin connection. Well, I know I got to plug this into something, so I'm going to start looking for a cable in here, and hopefully this is one of those days where it's not in there, which does sometimes happen.
Not looking good.
Ah!
Is
Okay.
it a DMX?
I have one.
No. You can, but that's not what we're talking about today. So I've got a cable here, and it's got 5 pins on both ends. Okay, well that gets me started. I hear it click. I notice looking at this that there's a little button that says push, which is how I get this cable out. I don't get this cable out by putting it on the ground, putting my foot on the light, and pulling on the cable until it comes out, like somebody did, and pulled the whole end of this light apart. Okay? Never force anything, guys. There's always a right way to get a cable or something out of or off of something else. Now, I know on the other end of this, I've got another 5-pin adapter. I cannot plug this into the electrical outlet. I've never seen an electrical outlet like that. So I start looking in here. I look at this thing, and if I'm at all savvy, I recognize that batteries connect to this, and then I read and see that it's a battery charger. Well, that's not going to do me any good. So I'm going to put that back. And then I pull out something else. And this says aperture, light storm, 120D. It's got a place for a battery. It's got a brightness button. And oh, it's got an output up here. Well, I know I want my electricity to be going into the light, so it's got to come out of something. And it's a 5-pin. So I'm going to, take a gamble. Hear it click. That's always nice. We like hearing clicks. Now, I know somehow I've got to plug into a wall outlet. So I'm going to be looking, where can I find a cable in here that, see, that's something I recognize. I know that will go into a wall, right? Now, what's this on the other end? I've got 3 connections down here, 2 of which say DMX. Benny, what does DMX mean?
It's a digital. Okay, I know the digital
DMX.
multiplat. No, I know this.
I don't even know what the initials mean, actually.
No, it's actually it's a digital multiplex or something like
Yeah.
that. It's I know it has like something to do with channels. Wait, I'm looking this up. Digital wait.
I don't think he
What
wants
is
the
a
name. He
DMX?
just wants to know what it does.
I just know that my lighting teachers talked about it. So
Okay.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm curious to the storyline.
he's an interesting person to teach her.
DMX.
He kind of looks like Woody Harrelson.
Yes, damn it.
I'm getting no why.
But it's only 2 words. It stands for only 2 words. I
Okay.
know that for
All
sure.
right. What does it do?
There we go.
Okay, so
What's its function?
Benny.
I remember this.
Come on, baby.
I hate to be mean, but he's not a very good teacher.
But he looks like Woody Harrelson, so nobody cares.
Yes, exactly.
Anybody? DMX?
Plug in.
Plug into what?
About a 5, is that a 5-pin? I know the 5-pin DMX.
Is it
It's an actual 1, 2. Yes, it is a 5-pin DMX.
Electricity.
5. I think. Okay. So I know what this is.
Is that the box for the channels?
Yes.
Yes, it's a connection with the channels. I
Okay.
know that.
All right. It's going to be helping you connect to a different kind of power source than we have. Let's just put it that way. All right. We won't belabor it, right? Also,
I was correct. Digital multiplex.
there you go. I don't have a 5-pin cable that ends in anything that will let me plug into an electrical outlet. So those aren't going to work for me. But I got this thing, and boy does it look like it fits. Why don't you get it the right way? Boy does it look like it fits right in there. And it does, and if I twist it, oh,
It can only
All
have
right.
512 units.
okay. So I've kind of just guessed my way through this, right? I could have Googled it, probably would have been faster, probably would have been better, wouldn't have had to ask many questions. So that would have been great. Okay, what we're going to do now then is mount this.
It looks heavy. The way you're holding it. You make
No, it's not heavy. It's not heavy at all. It comes.
Oh, this one has a buckle too.
Never. Someone stole that from some other kid.
Probably.
Okay.
Get on them.
All right.
Yeah.
Now we're going to bring this over here.
That's praise the wrong people.
Let's lower it down a little bit. This connector here, we used to have these for those kinds of lights, and they were referred to as ballasts. And they were a way to regulate the power that was going into the light so that the light wouldn't flicker. This, however, for us is now a control box, which means I've got a button here that says power. Striking.
Striking, no. It's not buckle. Striking, maybe.
Oh, we plugged in yet?
No.
Okay. That helps. And there it is. I've got brightness.
Oh, it's not soft. As soon as I started like that's
I think that's the most popular light.
Number one, look at how bright this is compared to that light. It's at least as bright, if not more, and this is our dimmest one of these. We've got a 300 that is twice as bright as this. I'm going to take it off you guys in a minute. Number two, I can run this off a battery, provided I have charged batteries. So I can go shoot out in the middle of the night in the woods with this if I want to. It doesn't get hot. It doesn't catch things on fire. That's nice.
Does it come with batteries?
It does. Well,
The ones that actually have batteries.
here's our problem right now. I don't know how this happened. We have some kits that have batteries and some that don't. And the first cent I'm going to force them to spend when we have one is to make sure every one of these kits have a battery. Very good.
Yes.
The 300s take 2 of those, by the way. Okay.
It's a very condensed.
It doesn't unless you touch it. Now,
Okay.
we have some modifiers here. The first thing we have is this reflector. Okay. This is kind of like a par, same function as a par. Benny brought that par up thing last time, right? What this does is the same thing that this lens in here does. This Fresnel lens that was originally designed for. Thank you. Someone was listening. Lighthouses. This will bounce the light around and will actually amplify it. So this will help us get, I can remember I had the 300 set up outside that window one day, And we put this on it, and it increased the amount of light coming out of here by 2 stock minutes. It was 4 times as much light with this thing on as with this thing off. This is also a way to connect barn doors, and this one has, every manufacturer does something different. This has this little piece of, this little metal, sort of wire here, so that when I fit this over, and I take this piece of metal, and I hook it in right there, locks it in place. And I don't have to worry, I mean, I don't want to put my hand on it, but I don't have to worry about burning myself. Okay, let's kill the overheads. All right, take a little bit of light off you guys. Let's go this way. Okay, let me come around a little bit more once we go a little more. Okay. Because of what I'm going to be doing in a couple of minutes, how are we doing on time? Are we okay?
You have 20 minutes.
Okay, we're running out. Can we fire that one back up, please?
Strike you.
Okay, off of that light at that distance, I'm getting 3.6 now. Off of this light at that distance, I'm getting 3.6. So they're exactly the same intensity. What they are not is the same color. Let's bring this down just a little bit
Got like ice and fire.
to about there. Right? Now, tungsten, 3,200 to 3,400 degrees Kelvin. Daylight, 5,600 degrees Kelvin. We do have one of these, one of the 300s, that you can adjust and change the color temperature. Right now, the camera is set so that that light should appear white. And we know it did before. It doesn't quite now because we've got this thing to compare. But if I turn this light off for a moment, we can see that skin tone looks pretty normal. But that this looks very cold and very bluish.
Have like a shadow.
Yeah.
Going straight down.
So I've got two lights that are competing with each other. Let's see what happens if we set this for that light. That light is 5,600. So I go in here and I change this to 5,600. This light just turned white and that light turned orange. Interesting, one of the things that would be curious to see is if I put this on auto white balance, what's it going to do? It's going to try to split the difference. So we're going to have it a little blue on one side and a little orange on the other. We're at like 3,700 degrees Kelvin. Can I get I think you know where this is for anybody else? The piece of the piece of poster board that's bent.
Yeah.
Now again, we're partially looking at this from a corrective point of view. We can also look at this from a creative point of view. Sometimes it's really interesting to have mixed sources of different colors. Hold this so that it's hitting both lights on the side, if you will, please. So up, up, front up. It's dark. That's all right, just like that, okay? So we are now, let's go back.
He's just reading a book.
I heard Dune was pretty good. I just didn't want to watch it.
Let's go back to
Oh, is that part one you're reading?
3,400 degrees Kelvin. That, we're telling the camera that that is the white light. And that's pretty white looking. Not to the naked eye, by the way, but pretty white looking on the screen. This is looking bluer, right? If I now tell the camera that that's the light we want to look white, and I go back up to 56, this turned white and that turned orange. You go shoot a bunch of video outside and you come home and you look at it because no one looks at their video while they're shooting it. I don't know why, but no one does.
I like to be surprised.
Well, I don't.
It's just like shooting on film.
And everything is blue, it's because your camera thought you were shooting inside, and it turned everything blue because it thought the light was orange. If you're shooting in your dorm room, and everything comes out orange at night, let's say you're shooting at night, and everything comes out orange, it's because for some reason your camera thought you were shooting in daylight, so it tried to turn everything orange to compensate. This is why you get so much footage outside that's blue and so much footage inside that's orange. And you have to go into post-production and try to correct it, which is, as we all know, kind of a pain in the neck. Okay? Now, once again, we can decide to use this creatively. You can put that board down for now. We can look at the two extremes. If we tell this camera that we're shooting at 2,000 degrees, it's going to turn everything blue, but one light's bluer than the other, right? If we go back and we split the difference, let's try it like at 43. A little blue and a little orange. If we go back to 5,600, orange, white. Now, let's say I don't like this. Let's say I want these two lights to look the same. I don't have a color correction on that. I don't have a color correction on that. So what I need to do is, if I want to stay at 5,600 and have that light match that light, what do I do to this light?
Color correction kit.
Okay, and what does that mean?
It's like a thing of gels that has like different colors on it.
Okay, so what I want to do is go with what's referred to as a full blue. We think this is a full blue. Do we think this is a full blue? This is a full blue. So we do a complete color correction of this light to blue light, to 5,600 degrees Kelvin. We have these things. Did we talk about these last time? If you're a really pompous ass, you call these C47s. They're fucking clothespins. Give me a break. I'm sorry. They're clothespins. Give me a break. All right? So now, these are designed to withstand the heat of these lights. If you go to Amazon and you rent some party gels for $15 and you put them on this light, they will turn to molten jello.
Absolutely.
And you will not like it. Okay, but these are safe for this.
Ooh, that's blue. Makes me feel blue right now.
I can hold it.
Okay. Now, we just darkened it. So one of the things I want to do very quickly, where are we now?
I like the vibe.
We are now at a 1.8. We lost almost a stop and a half. Let's get on the, let's start bringing this down. Actually, let me set this first.
How do
No, I can do
open
this.
that?
Here we go. All right,
Right in there.
take it down. Is it going down?
Oh.
I'm sorry, you take it down.
To.
I don't know.
Is
Let's
that
just
51?
keep going slow till I get to 1.8. Oh, okay, slower. Okay, those two are now even. I have to adjust my exposure over here, which is going to open me pretty much almost all the way up. Okay? They both look pretty normal, right? This is an old light, so it's going to have a little bit of problems with it, but both of his sides, I mean, look at his arms. One's a little warmer than the other, but not substantially. One's a little brighter than the other, it feels like. It feels like this light is still a little brighter than the other. So let's turn that up. Where are we on?
We're on 33 right now.
Let's take it up to 40. Yeah, let's leave it there. I think that's going to give us a better representation, right? Both sides look pretty much the same, right? So we've taken this light and with the addition of a gel, we have turned it to the color temperature of that light. I'm not going to take the time to do it. I could do the opposite. I could take this gel off here and I could get a full orange and put it on this and turn this light into the same color temperature. And this way both lights match. Maybe that's important, maybe it's not. Depends on what you're shooting, depends on how you want people to feel about it. Questions? Would you mind, my big bag of gels? Would you grab that really quick and then we're going to have to start breaking down.
I'm kind of loving the back room right here,
Yeah?
where it's all. I think it was like better when that one light was. I think it was on that side, and it was just completely dark in here, and then it just looked like a little horror movie, where you just like
Yeah.
had someone's hand.
Well, we're going to deal with that next week.
Oh, cool.
We're not going to ignore that. We're just ignoring it for now. We can also use gels to create colors and moods.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Now, I can't put that gel on that light because it'll melt. I can put it on this light because this light doesn't get that hot. Right? Let me see. Do we have the green in there? Do you see this stuff looks green?
I feel like that would be the most common mistake is the gels melting.
There's like a neon red.
Yeah, let's try that. Let's see what that looks like. Well, I don't know if I'd call it the most common, but it's certainly, if you're using the proper gels, look how I can just touch this thing, don't worry about it. If you're using the proper gels, meaning the ones you check out from our equipment, you will not melt them. Right? So that's a very subtle. Is there any more green in there?
There's like a teal.
I thought there was one of the ones that kind of melted that was just real green.
Yeah.
Let's try this one. I'm just going to hold it up there. Okay, right? Now, we can get into color temperature, we can get into color theory, we can get into what green light will feel like, what red light will feel like, right? I think you get a good sense of it just kind of looking at it, right? Can we turn that light off now, please? Right? Okay, the only thing we have not done, and which I'm going to wait and do next week, is shape. But let me just say something about shape very quickly. You've got basically 3 different approaches to shape. Shape is throwing shadows. Shape is deciding where the light is going to go and where the light is not going to go. So if I open this, your first attempt at shaping is barn doors. So if I open these barn doors up, I'm getting a lot of light on that back door. Let's say I don't want the light on the back door. Well, my first approach will be to close a barn door until I take it off. If I go too far, I'll start to take light off the subject. So about there is as far as I can go. If I'm getting a reflection off the ceiling, I can bring this down, I can take the light off the ceiling. Getting a reflection off the floor, I can bring this up. In fact, I can even kind of cut the light so that the space is a little bit brighter, right? So that's your first attempt. Your second attempt, let me get that flag real quick.
Big one?
Yeah, it doesn't matter, whatever's first coming out. Your second attempt is to use a flag, which will allow you to have a slightly more distinct shadow. So if I really just want the door, boom, I can just be the door. If I want the whole back wall, I can do that. If I want the door to be lit but the wall behind him to be in shadow, I can do that. And I can also come up from the bottom and I can create a very distinct shadow across part of his body if I want to. I can tilt it a little bit. I can take a little bit of the light off his face if I want to. I can highlight his eyes. That's your second. Your third approach is something called a cucaloris. And a cucaloris,
It's on the bottom of the.
I don't want the cookie, I want the, I'm not going to cookie. A cucaloris is something that will provide a distinct and specific shape. So, I can do that. Or we can put him in jail. Right? Put it there. Now he's in jail, right? Right. Right? Now, sometimes, and actually maybe look at that real quick. Where's the, you said it was on the bottom?
It's the bottom of the shelving cart.
Be careful, it's really fragile.
Gotcha.
There are these things that are designed to have just sort of random geometric patterns. I mean, I've worked on a lot of movies where to do something like a cookie and to break up a solid light like that, you just cut a limb out of a tree and put it on a C-stand. But you do have these weird things that if you keep them close to the light are a little strange. The further away, I'm sorry, if you keep them far away from the light, it's a little strange. If you can get them really close to the light, it becomes something a little more abstract and just breaks up that solid pattern of light you have back there. So when we're talking about shape, we're just talking about helping decide where the light goes, where the light doesn't go, and whether there are shadows that communicate something or break something up in a way, right? Or communicate a location or a place. All right, any questions? Okay, we're running a little late, so let's get the overheads on. Let's save everything. If you guys don't mind, as always, helping get everything packed up.
You guys can handle it.
This will have to wait. So let me find it. I'm gonna go run into there. So I'm gonna slide this out of the way so we can move the plate. Do not touch this light.
There's like a little gap.
And we'll get this case out as well. Thanks. Yeah. So anything you can do to help is appreciated. We've only got about 10 minutes to get out of here.
Take the camera back down.
Thank you very much, by the way.